OSINT researchers have long analyzed Russian resources, where obituaries of Russian military personnel eliminated in Ukraine have been published since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. Dynamics, geography and designation of the units led them to the following conclusions regarding the situation of live force in the occupation troops in Ukraine. Russia managed to hide its losses quite well in 2022, when most of the liquidated occupiers were contract soldiers. However, live force losses in the first year of a full-scale war were generally lower than in 2023. The Wagner Group began employing recruited prisoners as early as 2022, but the operational secrecy of mercenaries, in general, was higher than that of the Russian armed forces, so their obituary losses are much worse recorded. From the beginning of 2023 the losses increased dramatically. In particular, at the expense of the 155th Marine Brigade of the Russian Navy, defeated in an attempt to attack Vugleda, as well as among fighters from the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. Russian commanders during this period began to more actively mix experienced fighters with mobilized fighters, regardless of the compatibility of the units. Subsequently, units from occupied territories again began more actively participating in assaults, leading to a gradual wear-down of both categories, experienced militants and mobilized ones. As the Ukrainian offensive began, Russian casualties again increased. Losses were recorded not only on the main axis of the offensive, but also on islands on the Dnipro River and near Bakhmut. It is confirmed that the Russian command drowned some of its own troops when Kakhovka Dam was blown up. In the southern direction, the Russians relied more and more on replenishing their lost units with mobilized troops. At the same time, their ability to move new units to this section of the front was limited. Near Bakhmut, the occupiers relied even more on undertrained personnel to supplement the battered units. Many of these replacements, especially those recruited among convicts, had only 2 to 3 weeks of combat training before being sent to the front line. This tactic of plugging holes with new recruits resulted in very high casualties. The current situation in the Russian armed forces has deteriorated even further. The current level of mobilization is just about enough to keep up the intensity of the fighting and to advance at an extremely slow pace little by little. However, to achieve this, it is necessary to continue replenishing battered units with poorly trained recruits. At the same time, some individual units created back in 2022 are still kept in reserve, no casualties among them have been recorded. In order to increase the intensity of combat operations, the Russian command needs to launch a larger mobilization wave like the one that took place in the fall of 2022, but the Russian leadership still does not dare to do so. The situation with experienced units in the enemy's armed forces is very bad, there are very few of them left, but Russia has enough manpower in the general mass.